why Urantia is different and why it matters. So this was the topic that I was given, so to speak, or that I agreed to present as sort of a keynote to this session. And it's let me just tell you a little bit about how it evolved for me in my own thinking, and then what I'm going to talk to you about tonight. We start with this question: what do you think, or what do we think makes Urantia different? And my original idea in signing up for this was, well, this is going to be fun. I'm going to go through the book, and there's various lists that people have created over the years that are helpful, and just have a kind of a lighthearted approach to it, and talk about all the little differences, right? Of which we all know there are many. But as I spent time starting to do that and thinking about it a little bit, there are clear, when David added why it matters, the subtitle, or at least that, came out of some discussion we had, it made me pause a little bit and say, look, we all know we're a decimal planet. We all know, this and that. We have Michael, we have the rebellion. So those are all clear differences. But, where does that really come from? And it's not so much what are the implications in terms of, how are we dealing with it or what happened because of it, but why did that stuff happen in the first place? What laid the groundwork for that? Was there something different about Urantia that led to some of these differences with which we're all familiar? And so it got me thinking really from way to move away from some of the more, what I'll call, for lack of a word, physical differences, the way our planet was put together and planned, and some of the things that happened to it, versus, what are the spiritual implications of this, apart from just the effect on, the ascendant plan, which we and the book rightly focuses on. Is there something more fundamental that's different? So I came up with this sort of thesis, which I'm going to present to you, and you can all think about it. Obviously, it's just a point for discussion. There's no answer. Urantia is different because it was created with more something. With more what? Was there something in the plan, in the organization of the universe, the local universe, our system that led to the things that we're a little more familiar with that happened to us? I mean, we're told very clearly that each inhabited world is unique, obviously, and that makes total sense. So we can't, you could probably give this presentation on every world in some way. But obviously, Urantia is really unique. That's not good English or syntax, but there are ways in which we obviously stand out. There are many material differences, from being a decimal planet to the material implications of rebellion, of the Adamic default, et cetera. But are there spiritual differences? Are there differences that were sort of here even before rebellion, or even before default, or even before bestowals? And, I like to think of this as we often do. We can look at the facts of differences and we can talk about their meaning. What was more the purpose? What was the groundwork? What was the foundation of some of these differences? So I want to start sort of by asking what you might think, makes your answer different. Obviously, as David already mentioned, there's things that we perceive as negative, right? Rebellion, default, isolation. But there's things that we know and we are told are positives, right? We're more tested, and that's to our benefit. We have a different experience, and in a way more experience of some things that other planets would not. And therefore, we have some opportunities for growth that humans on other planets may not. We obviously have Michael's bestowal, which was not accidental given our situation, one can presume. And obviously that is quite a positive thing. But, why did all this happen? Why was it set up this way? If there's an answer to that question, was it in order to sort of test us more than, some other planet? Was part of the purpose to provide a more dramatic backdrop for Michael's bestowal? It's pretty clear when you read about his bestowals that he chose places that where I don't. Not only in some way did they need his help, but it provided a more opportunity for him to learn and to demonstrate things that might not have been possible had he gone to various places where things were proceeding 100% as planned. And obviously that was true on our planet. I think we could, or at least I'm positing that it wasn't planned. It wasn't. It wasn't part of. We're told very clearly that it wasn't planned that Lucifer would rebel, or Caligestio would support him, or Satan would join him, or that Adam and Eve would default. All those beings had free will, and all those beings exercised their free will in a way which, maybe in some ultimate sense, was known to the Father, but it was certainly not part of the standard plan. But it was allowed in the sense not just of permitted, but circumstances were such that it was possible, and it did happen, and it happened on our world, and it obviously affected other worlds too. So in that sense, it was part of the range of possibilities within God's plan. And if it was therefore planned in that sense, it was therefore, in some sense, at least the possibility of it was anticipated, if not specifically here, if not specifically Lucifer, if not specifically our material son and daughter. There was clearly some sense that, well, this could happen, and obviously it did, and it happened. A number of things happened here that are quite unique. One might even say designed, in the sense that the design of the master universe, the grand universe, the super universe, the local universe, was such that this could happen. And so what I want to think about is, even before there was a rebellion, even before there was a default, even before there were any special bestowals on our planet, what, if anything, was different about us, or about the situation in which Urantia found itself? We're told in paper 15, your planet is a member of an enormous cosmos. You belong to a well-nigh infinite family of worlds, but your sphere is just as precisely administered and just as lovingly fostered as if it were the only inhabited world in all existence. I'm sorry, it looks like I copied what's supposed to be a bullet there. Precisely administered and lovingly fostered. And obviously this would be true of any planet. And we all know in some sense it is true. But, really? There are lots of worlds that are precisely administered and lovingly fostered where, they don't experience the circumstances that we did, which obviously might in some sense are negative. So how do we reconcile this with the fact that, these things did happen? We know there has to be room for error. That's part of the plan. It's definitely we have the ability to err, and other beings are created with the ability to err. It's an important part of what makes us human. It's an important part of our dedication to the Father when that happens, because it has to be possible that we don't do that. But why so much? Why so much room for error, and why so much error on our planet? Here's my thesis, if you will. And it came to me, and there's no right answer to this, but it's an answer I want to talk you through because I think it's a very interesting way to think about it. My proposition to you is that Urantia is the recipient of an exceptional amount of mercy. Now, when I first thought of that, it's kind of odd, because we know that, and we're going to look at some passages. Mercy is something that's bestowed by the Father and the Son in inexhaustible quantities. So how can we have more of it? But that's what I'm going to try and show you, or at least it's my proposition, and you can decide whether it's true or not. And I think there are other words that you could put there, but I think mercy is a very interesting one to explore. So let's start with our super universe, Orvington, of which we're obviously a part. Here's one of the things we read about Orvington, also on paper 15. Orvington, the seventh super universe, the one to which your local universe belongs, is known chiefly because of its tremendous and lavish bestowal of merciful ministry to the mortals of the realms. It is renowned for the manner in which justice prevails as tempered by mercy, and power rules as conditioned by patience. Well, the sacrifices of time are freely made to secure the stabilization of eternity. Orvington is a universe demonstration of love and mercy. Wonderful. What this implies is the other super universes are somehow different in their demonstration of mercy, and then maybe they demonstrate other things more than mercy. But our super universe is known, therefore, in the other super universes and Havana and Paradise, for its demonstration of love and mercy. So already in the seventh super universe, we can expect to be the recipients of this more so than in other places. And I want to draw your attention, the sacrifices of time. Well, just on the surface of it, what is it about mercy that requires a sacrifice of time? That's not immediately obvious, but I think it's quite important. And I think, if we all think about it, we could come up with the answer. But it's that link between mercy and time that I want to delve into a little bit, because so much of our uniqueness, isolation and whatnot, affects the temporal progression of our world and our own spiritual progress. And that link is quite important, but it's not something that, is superficially apparent. Let's talk a little bit about and look at some of the key passages on, what mercy is, and start with the Father as the source, divine mercy. Mercy is simply just, from paper 2, which is obviously about the universal Father. Mercy is simply justice tempered by the wisdom which grows out of perfection of knowledge and the full recognition of the natural weaknesses and environmental handicaps of finite creatures. Our God is full of compassion, gracious, long-suffering, and plenteous in mercy. Therefore, whoever calls upon the Lord shall be saved, for he will abundantly pardon. The mercy of the Lord is from everlasting to everlasting. Yes, his mercy endures forever. I am the Lord who executes loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth, for in these things I delight. I do not afflict willingly, nor grieve the children of men, for I am the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort. So you can already see in this passage where I've underlined, and obviously the underlining is all mine, mercy is a response or a response to a recognition of natural weaknesses and environmental handicaps. So there's a link there, and there's a correlation. We're also told, again from paper 2, mercy is the natural and inevitable offspring of goodness and love. The good nature of a loving Father could not possibly withhold the wise ministry of mercy to each member of every group of his universe children. Eternal justice and divine fairness together, and divine mercy together constitute what in human experience would be called fairness. So I think it's clear here that the Father is going to grant mercy wherever it's needed. He can't do otherwise, or won't do otherwise. But the question becomes sort of who needs mercy, I believe. And again, we're told in the same passage, divine mercy represents a fairness technique of adjustment between the universe levels of perfection and imperfection. Mercy is the justice of supremacy adapted to the situations of the evolving finite. The righteousness of eternity modified to meet the highest interest in universe welfare of the children of time. Imperfection, evolving, time, nowhere perhaps demonstrated better than on Urantia, but therefore perhaps nowhere, or at least in a unique way, demonstrated on Urantia is the mercy that is available in response to that as a technique of adjustment between our situation and perfection. Now, that's sort of mercy in the general sense, and from the Father. Let's look at the the Son, because some very important parts, a passage about mercy with the eternal Son. Son shares the justice and righteousness of the Trinity, but overshadows these divinity traits by the infinite personalization of the Father's love and mercy. The Son is the revelation of divine love to the universes. As God is love, so the Son is mercy. The Son cannot love more than the Father, but he can show mercy to creatures in one additional way. For he is not only a primal creator like the Father, but he is also the eternal Son of that same Father, thereby sharing in the sonship experience of all other sons of the universal Father. So the Son, like us, can be the recipient of the Father's mercy and can therefore show mercy to us in a way as a brother, so to speak, in a way that the Father does not. The eternal Son is the great mercy minister to all creation. Mercy is the essence of the Son's spiritual character. The mandates of the eternal Son as they go forth over the spirit circuits of the second source and center are keyed in the tones of mercy. The ministry of the eternal Son is devoted to the revelation of the God of love to the universe of universes. All the merciful ministrations of the sons of God are a direct revelation of the Father's heart of universal love and infinite compassion. The Father's love is the real and eternal source of the Son's mercy. Again, it's a demonstration. It's that adjustment between the Father's infinite perfection and our state, the descending sons, and can translate that downstep that, if you will, to our level. And my proposition is, in a way that a planet without problems, so to speak, that's not necessary, and therefore does not happen as much, or at least in the same way. I won't read this whole thing just to save a little time. The key point is in the beginning. God is love. The Son is mercy. Mercy is applied love, the Father's love in action in the person of his eternal Son. So here the book in paper 6 actually, defines the Father's love in action as that mercy, as that technique of adjustment between, and it goes on to talk, as a lot of us know, that it's more like the love of a mother, even though that's a crude parallel. So that's, at the Trinity level, our local universe, of course. Not only are we in the seventh super universe, known for its mercy, but we're in a local universe that is singled out in that way as well. Let me just skip to the underlined section from paper. It must be a typo, I think, because there is no paper 216. Maybe it's 21, which I think it is, because that's about the Paradise Sons. The trend of administration in the universe of Nebadon suggests that its creator and ruling Son is one whose nature and character more resemble that of the eternal Mother and Son. And we were just told that the eternal Son, that mother experience of the eternal Son is closely linked to mercy, the demonstration of mercy. So we have a creator Son who not only obviously shares in the attributes of the Father and the Son, like they all do, but one who resembles more the eternal Son and the eternal Mother Son, and who therefore is presumably quite on the spectrum, if you will, of more mercy, would presumably be, on the greater end. So let's talk just a little bit about the link, the sort of the necessary link between mercy and free will. In order for there to be a demonstration of mercy, what these pastors, I think, have told us is there needs to be an imperfection. So sort of as we think of the paragraph, in after the inevitabilities, it says, the natives of Havana don't think about some of these things in the same way that we do. Well, they don't, perhaps need mercy because they don't have the imperfection, right? Or paradise. So in order for there to be the opportunity to demonstrate mercy, there must be something to forgive, something to be merciful about, right? Among other things, some error, some evil, some sin, some iniquity. And why do we have those things? What's the source of those things? Well, those things arise from free will, whether that be on the human level or other created beings, who are further from the level of perfection in the Father and the central universes, et cetera. And we're told quite clearly that, there's the Father has built the whole universe and plan of ascension around the concept of the supremacy of free will. Having thus provided for the growth of the immortal soul and having liberated man's inner self from the fetters of absolute dependence on antecedent causation, the Father stands aside. No other being, force, creator, or agency in the wide universe of universes can interfere to any degree with the absolute sovereignty of the mortal free will as it operates within the realms of choice, regarding the eternal destiny of the personality of the choosing mortal. As pertains to eternal survival, God has decreed the sovereignty of the material and mortal will, and that decree is absolute. And I think we'll see also that respect and that decree also works for other will creatures within their sphere of choice and within their realm of possibility. So not only do you have mortals able to choose, you have other created beings, not perfect beings, able to choose, and that free will is going to be respected no matter what. For our survival, the implications may be mostly for us, and obviously somewhat for those who are around us. For other created beings, those implications might have much broader implications, as I think we'll see. We know that in the universe of imperfection and the evolving super universes, that there's inevitability of sin, error, and iniquity. The gods neither create evil nor permit sin and rebellion. Potential evil is time existent in a universe embracing differential levels of perfection, meanings, and values. Sin is potential in all realms where imperfect beings are endowed with the ability to choose between good and evil. The very conflicting presence of truth and untruth, fact and falsehood, constitutes the potentiality of error. The deliberate choice of evil constitutes sin. The willful rejection of truth is error. The persistent pursuit of sin and error is iniquity. So obviously the whole of the evolving super universe is set up with this possibility. Our universe, we're told, is willing to sacrifice time and demonstrate mercy to a degree. Our super universe, and presumably our creator son, shares this perspective, right? That range of imperfection, that difference in the time, the differences imposed by time, that adjustment between perfection and evolving is perhaps uniquely concentrated around us and came to a head on Urantia in ways that it probably has not done in anywhere else or few, if any, other places. There's a link between freedom and mercy, because more freedom, more free will, more mistakes, more mercy. Through the cosmic circles of personality growth must eventually be attained. If through no fault of your own, the accidents of time and the handicaps of material existence prevent your mastering these levels on your native planet, if your intentions and desires are of survival value, there are issued the degrees of probation extension. You will be afforded additional time in which to prove yourself. So just stop and think about this. We've all read probably this passage, and we think about it, maybe in terms of our own spiritual growth or those close to us, but just start multiplying the effect when every single person has more, is subject to more accidents, has more handicaps of material existence because of circumstances, isolation, rebellion, default, and start multiplying that by all the individual souls. And they're all getting extra time, and they're all confusing each other. And even some of the beings who didn't start out as mortals are making bad choices, and therefore adding more multipliers of additional time needed to make up that difference. And here I think we see the explanation for why some of the freedom and respect for free will in Orvington and Abaddon is going to delay, in a sense, things, because they are going to give this extra time will be given. The son and the father can't help but give it. It's their nature. So therefore, there's going to be more time. And again, the same thing in a passage we've all, read, I'm sure, because it's quite stirring, even in an individual level. If there's ever doubt as to the advisability of an advancing human identity to the mansion worlds, the universe governments invariably rule in the personal interest of that individual. They unhesitatingly advance such a soul to the status of a transitional being, while they continue their observations of the emerging Urantia intent and spiritual purpose. Thus, divine justice is certain of achievement, and divine ministry is accorded further opportunity for extending its ministry. We're told again specifically that this applies, or how this applies, to our super universe and our local universe. And what I think is actually the passage that gave me the idea for this whole thing, from paper 112. The governments of Orvington and Nebadon do not claim absolute perfection for the detailed working of the universal plan of mortal repersonalization. But they do claim to, and actually do, manifest patience, tolerance, understanding, and merciful sympathy. We had rather assumed the risk of a system rebellion than to court the hazard of depriving one struggling mortal from any evolutionary world of the eternal joy of pursuing the ascending career. Now, to me, this is quite interesting. If they had just said, well, we'd rather risk a system rebellion because we want to, give more freedom and more choice and more respect for free will, that kind of makes sense. But, how is a system rebellion linked to deprive to the judgment that's going to be passed on ascendant candidates? Well, the more time, the more indulgence, if you will, of the outworkings of the handicaps of material existence, or the accidents of time, or the consequences of rebellion, or the consequences of default, or the consequences of isolation, you're indulging that freedom. And like I said, there's this multiplier effect. It's not just one person who's having trouble overcoming that affects other people, and higher beings, are doing things that affect whole systems and worlds and constellations and everything, right? So that freedom that which is really all founded on making sure we don't deprive any individual soul the possibility of an ascending career, ends up risking system rebellion. And that is I think closely linked to this idea that it's a demonstration of mercy. Again, another important passage. This doesn't mean that humans are to enjoy a second opportunity in the face of rejection of a first, not at all. But it does signify that all will creatures are to experience one true opportunity to make one undoubted, self-conscious, and final choice. The sovereign judges of the universe will not deprive any being of personality status who has not finally and fully made the eternal choice. The soul of man must and will be given full and ample opportunity to reveal its true intent and purpose. Now, again, this is written to the perspective of the ascending mortal, or the inhabitant of Urantia, but I think it must also be true from the words here and from the other things we've read that it applies to all created beings of free will. And so even Lucifer is not going to be deprived of, his expression and his full choice. And there's going to be given full and ample opportunity for him to reveal his true purpose. For everyone who's made a mistake, everyone who's made an error, everyone who commits sin, everyone, even the iniquitous, are going to have that opportunity. Therefore, things are going to be very delayed. Therefore, there's going to be more rebellions. Therefore, there's going to be more imperfection, more handicaps, and more need for mercy. And the response to that from the Son, because of the Father, is more mercy. So although we wouldn't say that an inhabitant in another super universe or another local universe or another world is somehow able to draw less mercy from the Father or the Son if needed, we can say, I think, on an aggregate basis that perhaps we have more of it, or at least we need more of it, and therefore we have more of it. That's my, what I put together. Now, what I want to stress about this, everything I read to you and all the theorizing I've been doing is true before Lucifer did anything wrong, before Adam and Eve defaulted, before anyone decided Urantia was going to get unique special bestowals. So it wasn't, necessarily, it was Lucifer's choice, his free will. It's Adam and Eve's choice, their free will. But even before that happened, you might have said, well, it's more likely to happen somewhere here because of the way this is set up. And I just wanted to draw your attention that, so Urantia, and obviously some other worlds in a similar situation, were, I think, created with more risk, if you will, of this happening. And so that's a difference that is antecedent to everything that actually happened. And, what is that? So what are the, oftentimes we focus on the rebellion, we focus on the default, we focus on the bestowals, because they're so dramatic and obviously so important to our situation. But my point here is to stop and think that even though none of those individual actions were foreordained or desired, there was a canvas, if you will, set out that allowed for that to happen and risked it in a way, a purposeful way, but not just for there to be mistakes, but to lay the groundwork, if you will, for the need and therefore the demonstration and revelation of mercy to our planet in a way, and therefore the Father's love in a way. Every planet must have a unique expression, but ours may be more unique than others, or at least we can think so. So I'm going to give you a topic to discuss, or talk about anything you want, or anything I just said, or anything I didn't say. And we'll have some breakout groups and take a break, and then we'll come back. And I want to do a little bit of seeing how these things I've been talking about play out into context, the Lucifer Rebellion and the Michael bestowal. I'm going to give you this discussion topic, but you're welcome to, it's the same one I started with. Urantia was created with more what, if anything, and actually have a fun little poll if you guys want to try and do it, because it may wake you up a little bit. You know what? My poll's not coming up. Never mind. We won't do the poll. I'll just leave you to the discussion. We'll come back. We'll maybe hear a few answers or ask for them in the chat. So right now it is, it's exactly 1 hour. That's what I planned. So I'm very surprised it actually happened that way. Why don't we come back at 20 after? Okay. So I'm going to suggest that you go into your breakout group. Well, your breakout group, you can decide if you want to take a little 5-minute bathroom water break and then stay in your group till 20 after. If you want to discuss first, and then toward the end, you can take a little break. I want to give the opportunity for people to have a little break. And then I'll send you a little warning to the breakout groups that we're going to end, and I'll come back together in a few minutes, but plan for that to reconvene at 20 after. Now, we happen to have, 95 participants. That's just amazing, just overwhelming. Ken Kaiser and I were speculating whether we would get to 100. 94. Oh, well. So it's a dynamic number, and hopefully we'll cross we'll have a centenary celebration at some point over the weekend. But that's really amazing. I thank you all for being here, and thank you all for listening to me drone on. I know it's hard when there's so many people and it's just one person talking. So 94 people, I think I'm going to split you up into 10 groups. Okay. So let me do that. It'll do you at random, and have fun discussing. If you want to talk about what I've talked about, awesome. If you just want to do something else, that's also fine. Now I just have to find the control, which here we are. We've got so many controls.
How many people in each room should we expect?
Well, there's now 91 people, so a few have wisely fled for the hills, but there's 91, and I'm going to make 10 groups, so you should have 9 people in each group, more or less. Okay, so here we go. And we'll see everyone back here at 20 after the hour. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll resume here. Hopefully you had some good discussion. Maybe had a chance for a little break. I, normally in a little bit smaller group, or maybe with a little bit better instruction, we could go around and have reports from each breakout room. We're not going to do that right now. I want to make sure to get through the rest of the material, but hopefully we will have some time at the end if we want to have some general discussion or comments. I'd very much like to do that. So hopefully we'll have some time at the end for that. But let me bring us back together a little bit and move forward. So the topic was Urantia is created with more blank. I just threw a few suggestions up here to kind of summarize at least what I said, which is by no means the only answer. More imperfection, more time perhaps to evolve, maybe more free will in some sense, right? Because more opportunities to exercise it, more freedom in a sense, again, no doubt more sin, error, and iniquity if those foregoing things are true. Therefore, more need for mercy, therefore perhaps more mercy. So that was kind of my thesis, if you will. And like I promised before the break, I want to sort of see how that played out into circumstances and topic. And the first is the Lucifer Rebellion. And, obviously a lot of the sessions to come over the next couple of days are going to deal with this topic or in one way or another. I don't think any of them, though, are going to talk about the causes in this way. So hopefully I'm not stepping on anyone else's toes, but I think it's a good background for what is. So we're told very early on in the what is revealed to us about the rebellion. Of all the local universes in Orvington, our universe has, with the exception of Henslon, lost the largest number of Lananadek sons. On Uversa, it is the consensus that we have had so much administrative trouble in Nevadon because our sons of the Lananadek order have been created with such a large degree of personal liberty in choosing and planning. And obviously that creation was Michael's choice and expression of his manifestation of his being as a paradise creator son. So that was a deliberate choice on his part, and to set up a universe where that was at least possible, where there was that freedom, and that is in fact what occurred. And we're told, of course, that in paper 53, well, there had been 2 previous rebellions in Nevadon. They were in distant constellations. Lucifer held that these insurrections were unsuccessful because the majority of the intelligences failed to follow their leaders. He contended that majorities rule and that mind is infallible, that the freedom allowed him by the universe rulers apparently sustained many of his nefarious contentions. He defied all his superiors, yet they apparently took no note of what he was doing. He was given a free hand to prosecute his seductive plan without let or hindrance. Again, I draw the parallel just as we have free will within our sphere in terms of choosing our progress such as we can. Lucifer was created and his order of sun was created with a large degree of freedom to do what he did. And that choice to create his order of sonship and him that way was deliberate and planned, and therefore, laid the groundwork for some of these things. And this multiplier, I use the term multiplier effect. There's another way to look at it. All the merciful delays of justice, Lucifer pointed to as evidence of the inability of the government of the Paradise Sons to stop the rebellion. He would openly and arrogantly challenge Michael, Emmanuel, and the Ancients of Days, and then point to the fact that no action ensued as positive evidence of the impotency of the universe and the super-universe governments. So the same situation not only sort of allowed, this to occur, it actually, in a way, encouraged it. And once that bridge was crossed into rebellion, you immediately saw that, there's delay. That's going to be allowed to work, and that in itself, spurs more mistakes, more errors, more need for more delay, and it obviously cascaded pretty quickly, if we can use that term. Our time is a little different. Speaking of time, Gabriel was personally present throughout all these disloyal proceedings and only announced that he would, in due time, speak for Michael, and that all beings would be left free and unmolested in their choice, that the government of the sons for the Father desired only that loyalty and devotion which was voluntary, wholehearted, and sophistry proof. Well, that's great. In order to get that, you need to have a full expression on both sides of the coin. As we're told, Lucifer was permitted fully to establish and thoroughly to organize his rebel government before Gabriel made any effort to contest the right of succession or to counterwork the rebel propaganda. But the Constellation Fathers immediately confined the action of these disloyal personalities to the system of Satania. Nevertheless, this period of delay was a time of great trial and testing to the loyal beings in all Satania. All was chaotic for a few years, and there was great confusion on the mansion roads. Imagine, as I'm sure many of you have, a newly arrived mortal from evolutionary world, and thrust into this milieu. And guess what? You have, now you have free choice to make up your mind about what to do about this rebellion, but you have, no idea what's going on. Again, a huge cascading effect from that freedom, from that respect for free will. From the outbreak of rebellion to the day of his enthronement as sovereign of Nebadon, Michael never interfered with the level forces of Lucifer. They were allowed to run a 200,000 years of Urantia time. Christ Michael now has ample power and authority to deal promptly, even summarily, with such outbreaks of disloyalty, but we doubt that his sovereign authority would lead him to act differently if another such upheaval should occur. So any notion that this happened because Michael was not yet fully vested with master creator son sovereignty should be rejected. He could have stopped the rebellion at any time that he wanted to. He could, because we're told not only did he not do it then, he wouldn't even do it now. He would again respect that free will that arose from action in a context of imperfection that was purposefully created in such a way where that could happen, even if it means delay and therefore even more problems arising from the delay. The last act of Michael before leaving Urantia was to offer mercy to Caligastia and Dalagastia, but they spurned his tender proffer. Caligastia, your apostate planetary prince, is still free on Urantia to prosecute his nefarious designs, but he has absolutely no power to enter the minds of men. Neither can he draw near to the souls to tempt or corrupt them unless they really desire to be cursed with his wicked presence. So even today, post Michael's final bestowal, he has not stepped in to stop at least this ability. Obviously, there's other things that make it, that deprive him of certain power, but still, to the extent possible, there's a respect for that outworking of the consequences of choice, both at the level of monadic sons all the way down to mortals. We're told there are many reasons known to us why the supreme rulers did not immediately destroy or intern the leaders of the Lucifer Rebellion. There are no doubt still other and possibly better reasons unknown to us. The mercy features of this delay in the execution of justice were extended personally by Michael of Nebadon. Except for the affection of this creator father for his erring sons, the supreme justice of the super universe would have acted. If such an episode as the Lucifer Rebellion had occurred in Nebadon while Michael was incarnated on Urantia, the instigators of such evil might have been instantly and absolutely annihilated. So again, we see the approach, the philosophy, the creative decisions of our local universe creator to personally see, be consistent with how he set the local universe up to be mercy dominated, to be a demonstration of mercy, and acting on that even with regard to the Lucifer Rebellion. So again, did I lose my, hold on. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Okay. David, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, thanks. I touched my AirPods, and that sometimes is a bad thing to do. Hold on. Okay. I'll just read the underlined part of this in the interest of time. This restraint of justice by mercy proves that God is love, and that such a God of love dominates the universes and in mercy controls the fate and judgment of all his creatures. Again, mercy here that isn't perhaps expressed elsewhere because we have a unique ground for the demonstration of it, for the proving of it, for the showing of it. Not that the Father and the Son and other creator sons wouldn't grant mercy or couldn't grant mercy, but for whatever reason, we find Urantia in a place where it was needed, and when needed, and the outworking of that in the context of the rebellion is that restraint that was shown to the rebels. And again, the link between mercy and time and allowance for freedom and free will. The wisdom of delay. Mercy requires that every wrongdoer have sufficient time in which to formulate a deliberate and fully chosen attitude regarding his evil thoughts and sinful acts. Not just time to, possibly repent or correct, but actually so all the things that are wrong, all the things that are evil, are fully expressed. No part of what the will creature is expressing can be cut off or denied. So no matter how bad it is, it's going to be, they're going to draw a fence around it, right? Around the local system if it's a system rebellion, but they need it. It requires, you can't have the mercy can't do its thing. Mercy can't be appreciated or demonstrated without the full development of the error or the sin that triggers the need for it. This is quite an interesting thing to think about, I think. Supreme justice is dominated by the Father's love. Therefore, will justice never destroy that which mercy can save? Time to accept salvation is vouchsafed every evildoer. So that's more the, repentance, obviously. And no affectionate father is ever precipitate in visiting punishment upon an erring member of his family. Patience cannot function independently of time. And then, of course, here's the implication for us. Well, wrongdoing is always deleterious to a family. Wisdom and love admonish the upright children to bear with an erring brother during the time granted by the affectionate father, in which the sinner may see the error of his way and embrace salvation. Even though, there might be quite negative effects upon that family, and I think you can draw that parallel all the way up to our world, all the way up to our system. We see this again working out during the rebellion from paper 54 on Jerusalem. The personal representative of the Supreme Executive of Orvington counseled Gabriel to foster full opportunity for every living creature to mature a deliberate choice in those matters involved in the Lucifer Declaration of Liberty. The issue of rebellion having been raised, the Paradise Emergency Advisor of Gabriel portrayed that if such full and free opportunity were not given all Norlaciatic creatures, then would the Paradise quarantine against all such possible half-hearted or doubt-stricken creatures be extended in self-protection against the entire constellation, to keep open the paradise doors of ascension to the being of Nor-Leshadek, it was necessary to provide for the full development of rebellion and to ensure the complete determination of attitude on the part of all beings in any way concerned therewith. So any infringement on the free will, any non-respect, no matter how distasteful, for the error, the sin, the iniquity, for the choice, for the freedom that that creature was granted, not only prevents mercy from doing fully what it needs to do and being fully expressed, and therefore, in a way, the full demonstration of the Father's love, but it also would jeopardize, would again have a ripple effect, would jeopardize the ascension scheme for anyone who's potentially affected by that. Which is quite a dramatic statement to make. And it just goes to show you that this is not a, kind of a random choice or, well, we could let him go a little bit, we could cut him off. I mean, it's essential to the ascension scheme that grant of free will be respected and any problems not be just dealt with, but allowed to fully develop and therefore be fully the recipient of whatever mercy is available, which we know is always going to be enough to cure it if, in fact, the creature wishes to take advantage of it. The Divine Minister of Salvington issued as her third independent proclamation a mandate directing that nothing be done to half cure, cowardly suppress, or otherwise hide the hideous visage of rebels and rebellion. The angelic hosts were directed to work for full disclosure and unlimited opportunity for self-expression as the quickest technique of achieving the perfect and final cure of the plague of evil and sin. The quickest technique, even though it lasted for over 200,000 years of Urantia time, and we're still, obviously feeling its effects, and by all the indications, can talk about progress, but we're nowhere near, finished dealing with it. But that's the quickest, technique. Personalities or local universe personalities, but an emergency council of ex-mortals consisting of mighty messengers, glorified mortals who had personal experience with like situations, together with their colleagues, was organized on Jerusalem. They advised Gabriel that at least 3 times the number of beings would be led astray if arbitrary or summary methods of suppression were attempted. The entire Universal Corps of counselors concurred in advising Gabriel to permit the rebellion to take its full and natural course, even if it should require 1,000,000 years to wind up the consequences. So, before the break, we talked about sort of the groundwork that permitted some of the stuff to happen, but and here we see the real consequences, right, for that possibility that was raised. Very dramatic, obviously. Let's continue it on here. As sort of the summary effects of this, we're told, whatever the difficulties evolutionary mortals may encounter in their efforts to understand the Lucifer Rebellion, it should be clear to all reflective thinkers that the technique of dealing with the rebels is a vindication of divine love. The loving mercy extends to the rebels does seem to have involved many innocent beings in trials and tribulations, but all these distraught personalities may securely depend upon the all-wise judges to adjudicate their destinies in mercy as well as justice. So it's not, it's not just that we mercy is being extended, or freedom is being extended, or has been extended and abused, and therefore there's mercy, and we're suffering a lot. That our own careers and our own experience of mercy, our personal experience of mercy, is very much caught up in this same net, if you will. In all their dealings with intelligent beings, both the Creator Son and his Paradise Father are love dominated. It is impossible to comprehend many phases of the attitude of the universe rulers toward rebels and rebellion, sin and sinners, unless it is remembered that God as a Father takes precedence over all other phases of deity manifestation in the dealings of divinity with humanity. It should also be recalled that the Paradise Creator Sons are all mercy motivated. And it's their nature. You could say, I think it's their purpose. It's the why they're built, why they created local universe is a demonstration of the Father's love, a demonstration of mercy. All our problems, all our the things that went wrong, or the possibility of things to go wrong, are essential to us to our existence, to our fabric. And so we can look at them as bad things. We can try and find the good in it, but it's more than that. It's really the fabric of us in a way that's quite fundamental, I think. So obviously the presentations to follow, we're going to talk about a lot of things from Lucifer Rebellion. It is clearly one of the triggers that separates Urantia from quite another world. So of course, a lot of worlds had fallout from the Lucifer Rebellion. Not all lost their planetary prince, but we did. But certainly others must have, and I'm sure did. But then we had another very unique circumstance, as and if we had to pick the top two, it would probably be I'm skipping over Adam and Eve, but that added another wrinkle. But the second thing, of course, that makes us quite unique and obviously unique in our local universe was Michael's bestowal. And I mentioned it in the beginning. If you look back at his other bestowals, which coincidentally we just read in study group, he not every time, but at least in a couple of times, he went to places where there was rebellion, where there was a setback, where there was disruption, and no doubt, he came to Urantia, particularly because of our situation. And I don't think it's unfair to speculate that, he probably came to the place that was the worst. I mean, who knows, but he probably came to the place that was most messed up. Maybe some other worlds we can have a contest with senators from other world, whose world was more messed up, but we're certainly in the running, right? And certainly the bestowal makes us unique. And so this is interesting. This is from part 4, but it's talking about Paradise Creator Sons in general are innately just, but they become understandingly merciful as a result of these successive bestowal experiences. They're naturally merciful, but these experiences make them merciful in new and additional ways. So even Michael, as a son of paradise, a direct son of paradise, if you will, naturally merciful, naturally partaking of the nature of the eternal Son in mercy, the bestowals made him merciful in new and additional ways. I think that's quite a statement. By living experience, they possess themselves of practical mercy, fair judgment, and the patience born of experiential creature existence. And, early on in the book where, there's a little hint, there's hints everywhere. Urantia is comparatively isolated on the outskirts of Satania, your solar system with one exception being the furthest removed from Jerusalem. Well, Satania itself is next to the outermost system of Nar-Leshi-Dek, and this constellation is now traversing the outer fringe of Nebadon. You were truly among the least of all creation, until Michael's bestowal elevated your planet to a position of honor and great universe interest. Sometimes the last is first, while truly the least becomes greatest. And I guess I, submit to you that there's a good argument that we are on a planet that is possibly in our local universe and even in our super universe, and therefore in the grand universe, the least. But if that's true, then we also are the place where there's more need for mercy, and therefore more love in a way that other planets don't get. So, and let's just, in the last minutes here, let's look at some of Jesus's own teachings where we see this coming out, and as he was learning it and demonstrating it and teaching us. We're told, obviously, that He taught pure sympathy, compassion. Michael of Nebadon is a mercy-dominated son. Compassion is his very nature. Jesus portrayed conquest by sacrifice, the sacrifice of pride and selfishness. By showing mercy, he meant to portray spiritual deliverance from all grudges, grievances, anger, and the lust for selfish power and revenge. When he said, resist not evil, he later explained that he did not mean to condone sin or counsel fraternity with iniquity. He intended the more to teach forgiveness, to resist not evil treatment of one's personality, evil injury to one's feelings of personal dignity. And that I think is a great way to say that a Paradise Son who hasn't been a human maybe wouldn't quite be able to say that in the same way. We're told, or Jesus tells us, a compassionate father is freely forgiving. Fathers do not hold vengeful memories against their children. Fathers are not like judges, enemies, or creditors. Real families are built upon tolerance, patience, and forgiveness. And, just want to close here with some examples. There are others. When Nathanael asked, Master, shall we give no place to justice? The law of Moses says, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. What shall we say? And Jesus answered, you shall return good for evil. My messengers must not strive with men, but be gentle towards all. Measure for measure shall not be your role. The rulers of men may have such laws, but not so in the kingdom. Mercy always shall determine your judgments and love your conduct. And if these are hard sayings, you can even now turn back. If you find the requirements of apostleship too hard, you may return to the less rigorous pathway of discipleship. So his personal, representatives on earth, if they're going to walk the path of apostleship and in his footsteps, that's the requirement, because that's his nature. That's what he's trying to show his universe. And of course, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Until 7 times. And Jesus answered Peter, not only 7 times, but even to 70 times 7. Which of course means always. And just to bring it to a conclusion, he said, and even so shall my heavenly Father show the more abundant mercy to those who freely show mercy to their fellows. How can you come to God asking consideration for your shortcomings when you are wont to chastise your brethren for being guilty of these same human frailties? I say to you all, freely you have received the good things of the kingdom. Therefore, freely give to your fellows on earth. And among those good things is the mercy that our whole, I think, our super universe, local universe, world, and circumstances were created, and therefore it's what we have to give to each other. And of course, at the end of the parable of the Good Samaritan, he asks, which of these 3 who passed by the Samaritan turned out to be the neighbor of him who fell among the robbers. And when the lawyer who was asking him questions perceived he had fallen into his own snare, he answered, he who showed mercy on him. And Jesus said, go and do likewise. And really, in a way that sums up a lot, that it's not just treating other people well, it's not just being merciful. It says a lot about the way our whole planet, I think, was created, and why, how we're supposed to evolve, and the value we get from that on every level. But it's important that we learn it too. It's a hard lesson. It's a hard road of demonstration. Up to 1 million years, system rebellion. So the task ahead of us is maybe a little bit harder than it is in other places, but obviously the rewards and the experience and our contribution might be greater, from the least to the greatest, perhaps. So I'm just going to summarize what I said, and then we do have some more time, and we don't need to stop right away at the hour if people don't want to. So, and I'll open it up for some discussion. We'll see how that goes with 89 people in the room. But so what I'm saying is, Urantia has more imperfections. Urantia, no doubt, has probably a longer path to evolve than any other. Does anyone doubt we're going to be the last place to get unisolated, right? But Urantia will be given more time. We'll be given as much time as we need before every creature works out the implications of our circumstance. Even if there had been no rebellion, every creature gets that opportunity. But we find ourselves in a situation where it's multiplied many times. Urantians and people responsible for Urantia have been given an exceptional amount of freedom compared to other places in the evolving universes. That's what we're told. Therefore, because of those things, we're going to definitely need more mercy. Therefore, we're going to receive it because the font of mercy is inexhaustible. Therefore, we're going to be required, and hopefully we'll be able to, be more merciful. And if mercy is applied love, then Urantia is a unique demonstration of the Son's mercy, which is the Father's love in action. And I think I'm sure any planet can say this because every planet is unique and every planet has something to contribute to the Supreme. But it's nice to think that we have something maybe a little more unique for the reasons that we've been over. So thank you very much for listening to me drone on and on. I'm going to let people unmute themselves, I think, if I do this correctly. But if anyone wants to comment or say something, you can raise your hand electronically, please. And or if that doesn't work, just wave really, erratically, and I'll see you in the box. But I can't see everybody at once. And let me open it up for discussion or reaction. Come on, I've been in groups with a lot of you, and you like to talk. So, okay.
Wonderful, Tim. Just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Marvin. Monica Kemp, you raised your hand. So,
yes, thank you. Boy, that was a perspective I was so not totally expecting, and it was extremely thought-provoking, Tim. Really well done. I'll tell you what I was thinking, and I had my answers already for how Urantia is unique, what with the only one with the Archangel circuit on it, and the Father asking Michael to be the planetary prince, and you talked about the location on the outskirts of the outskirts of the outskirts, that the conjecture is that we might play the part of an outpost during the time of ultimacy and pervading development. It's all exciting. I can't believe what I learned tonight from what you said. And if we added on to those other aspects with the archangels here and so on, we truly are loved. And what is the word? His inexpressible. I wrote it down today. Anyway, what did I want to ask you there? Oh, shoot. Oh, no, it's okay. It wasn't as important as I thought it was.
That's okay.
Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you. That was really
thanks.
Mind-opening.
Thanks. Bobby?
Amazing. Thank you. That was so great. I have two things. One, I think the lesson is you can't truncate evolution. We see in any of the revolutions that there's always a backlash that turns out to be worse. So there's a lesson here about evolution, that it simply has to take its course, which I think is interesting. And the other thing is, do you think that it's possible to be merciful unless one is transformed? I mean, when one is being abused in the way that Jesus was, obviously, he was the soul of love, and transformation is available to all of us if we accept it. My sense is that you can't mock up mercy or love, that it has to flow through you as a consequence of your relationship with the Father.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's true. I think that in a way we're lucky because we have the opportunity to, I think it's a two-way street, right? You can't have one without the other. In order to fully experience mercy or develop mercy, there needs to be some occasion for it. And therefore you have to be open to it, and you have to, there has to be something wrong, in other words, for it to get started, and then it helps you grow in a way. And, we have these wonderful opportunities. Unfortunately, it's, from our perspective, it seems oftentimes unfair, or, we're a little bit like I don't want to talk anymore, but thank you. Yes, I think you're right. Let me make sure we get as many other comments as we can. Richard, maybe your hand up.
Thanks, Tim. Greetings, family. A lot of readers wonder why Caligastia is still allowed to be on the planet. Satan was taken away. Lucifer was locked up. All the midwayers that rebelled. And I just wonder if it's possible this is an extension of mercy, that Jesus or someone on the higher levels believes that he's still salvageable. Do you have any theories about that, Tim, or anybody?
I think in theory, every will creature is rebellious, and everyone is salvageable. Maybe it's as a practical matter too far gone one way, but I would answer that yes. I'm interested what other people would think. Patty, you're next.
I'd like to do the same thing I did in our breakout room. We have an opportunity for mercy. We have an opportunity to let unconditional forgiveness to flow through us. Our planet has suffered immensely from the Lucifer Rebellion. I'd like to take a minute to join our minds together and ask our brother, our Lenonadek son brother, to come back into the sonship and not abandon the Father. It is not the Father's will that even one should be lost. We respect our brother's free will, but we would ask him to please admit his mistake. We who have suffered so much, ask him. We join our minds together and ask him to come back into the sonship along with Caligastia, Dalagastia, and all the others. Don't abandon us, please. We would demonstrate mercy, we who have suffered. Can we ask 1 minute to join our minds together? Let us do so. Tim has given us inspiration. Let us join our minds and ask our brother to come back.
Thank you, Patty. That was very very moving. Thank you. Ted?
All right. Thank you, Tim. When you were discussing the distances of Urantia from various portions of our creation, there was one thing that at least I think I missed, or I hope I missed. I'd like to bring it to your attention. And that is, Urantia is the youngest of the planets that rebelled. And I don't recall if you said that or you mentioned it, but that is a factor, I think, in the master choosing this world on which to bestow himself. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. No, I had not mentioned that. You're saying that the inhabited world that had humans on it for the shortest amount of time at the time of their rebellion?
We were the youngest. We were the last to rebel, unless 607 rebelled, and I don't think it did. But 607 was the youngest planet, and I think we were the youngest to actually rebel.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Marvin?
I don't know if I can coherently share but I'll try with these thoughts. First of all, I want to say again, thank you, Tim. Wonderful, wonderful array of passages. So much wisdom there. And the emphasis on mercy to me was just really lovely. Just a few loose thoughts. One was I found myself thinking, what would it be like for me to have spent my life in a world that was not a sin-dominated world? How incredibly different my life and the circumstances I found myself in, the support, my very own physiological nature. How different would it be if I was not on a rebellion-tossed sphere? And I can't even imagine it. I think it's such a huge difference. And then another thought was, what is it that characterizes our world that results from all of this? And trying to get in touch with those factors and really look at them, the cultural factors, again, the physiological factors, the just all of it. And I was just, a third thought, I was just really touched in your presentation about how we really need and deserve God's mercy, given what we grapple with. And I don't think we appreciate what we grapple with, because for us, it's normal. It's what surrounds us, it's the water we swim in. And only when I think about what it might have been like to grow up with the Adamic support and the differences in spiritual nature and the different cultural emphases that would have been happening on a normal world, do I really maybe begin to deal with what it's meant to be on this world and how difficult a stretch it is. I don't think we really understand it fully. I don't think we will until we hit dimension worlds and beyond. And then the last thought is, as much as I feel I need mercy and understanding because of all of those things, I've begun to experience, and I can think back on experiences where I can be merciful with people that I know and love and care about and encounter because of how deeply I feel like I've been affected by being in this world. So I really appreciate, the connection you made between needing the mercy of the Son in these circumstances and the Father, and learning about mercy, experiencing mercy, and being able to feel an extra measure of mercy for people I encounter and compassion. And I think the depth of some of those things is something that we experience here that I don't think we fully appreciate and won't until we get further along.
Yeah, I think that's true. Well, we know that, rebellion tested people or ascenders are segregated in so many ways in special assignments. So, there must be something to that, right? That we can appreciate things in a way that others can't. And obviously the flip side of that is now we're very handicapped in our vision probably of what else it could be like. Thank you, Marvin. John Callahan.
Thank you, Tim. First of all, just my thanks. This was really interesting. I only came into the Urantia book in 03, excuse me, in 03. But in 1995, two things occurred. I'm a movie buff, and I happened to see a movie called Dead Man Walking. And it was the story about a nun named Helen Prejean, who was working with people that were on death row. And Sean Penn played Matthew Poncelet, who was on death row. And the movie was about her dealing with him and talking with him and moving him along. And I found it so powerful because virtually a week after I saw the movie, I listened to an hour interview with Sister Prejean on NPR. And it changed my whole thinking about love and about mercy and about justice and about forgiveness. And actually at that point in time, from that point on, I've been a person who absolutely thinks that the death penalty is a wrong thing in our country. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Alvin?
First, I want to say hello to all my friends, Bobby, Pam, all you guys. I miss you guys. I love you all. Kurt, it's good to see you. John, all you guys. I usually think about the practical sense in which, how I experienced the book in my life. And it's been about 50 years of living. I call it living the journey and the path. And one of the questions I normally ask, and one of the things that within myself that was very tough, we live in a society that we want to see people get theirs. We want to know that somebody did something wrong or wronged you. You want to know that karma got them. We talk about karma, everything comes around, goes around. And inside of us, we want to see it. We want to know that they got theirs, and that was one of the toughest things for me to let go of. And to know that we all are struggling here and we all have the circles that we have to do, and that I don't have to know that you got yours. I understand the way the universe works. We all get out. We all have to pay the consequences for our actions, whether we see it or know it's happening. And that I told the group that I was in, one of the things I gained during the pandemic, and I thought about all the blessings that the pandemic bestowed upon people. Sometimes our greatest disappointments turn out to be our greatest blessings. And I came out of it with the sense of meekness and forgiveness that I had never experienced before. It was a level that I had to come to grips with. It was a level that I had to be able to release within myself, or else whatever I'm saying and doing and how I'm living is not true. It's not to the potential that I need to get to be able to forgive to the level that Jesus did and then expected us to one point in our career to grow to really let go and to really forgive people and to really demonstrate mercy and to demonstrate kindness to those that have really come against you. We endure so many things in our lives, but if we can get to that point where being able to endure it and being able to let it go, and to be able to forgive and to go on and realize that we're each responsible for ourselves, and we're each doing our journey, and nobody's perfect. And so when we talk about that unique quality, that was one of the things that I felt like I gained a spiritual gift by surmounting one of those circles, by being able to let go. And that's all I have to say. It's been an amazing feeling. And suddenly, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden people started seeing me different. I should have taken care of that. People started seeing me different. I don't know whether there was some light or something coming off, but I felt like this release, and that's why I think of everything that we do in our reading and everything in our living, how it comes down to each one of us personally, how we each come down to our own personal striving. And we each know our weaknesses, we each know our strengths, and we each know the distance we have to travel. And that's what I try to awaken in people. I try to awaken that we all are on this journey, and we all are making it, and we all are struggling, and we're all trying to get better, and we all are getting better. And that whatever's happening in this country, that outer shell that's increasing the amount of fear and hatred and separatism, on the inside, on a whole nother level, it's not happening. There's a spiritual growth that's continuing, and that continues irregardless of the physicality, irregardless of the intellectuality, and irregardless of what's going on in the world. There's a spirit underneath that most don't get to tap into, and I feel blessed that we were exposed to know and to find that stream of pure spiritual bliss, of spiritual, I call it the gift of spiritual living. And I know in my heart that as I see you guys out there, I know the journey you're on. You know the journey I'm on. And some of you are in the journey shorter periods of time, and you got to go through some things, but I know the kind of things that is happening on the inside spiritually. And I guess maybe it's because of the fact of getting older. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that I feel closer to getting to where I was in 1971 and 1972 when I first got the book. I'm a long ways from there. And I'm sure a lot of you are a long ways from where you started.
Thanks, Alvin. That's those are stories. I think a lot of it does. You talk about that desire for getting even, or people getting theirs, and we can imagine perfection. We can imagine the righteousness. We can imagine judgment. That's easy, but it's that delay. It's that allowance. It's that letting it play out, letting people make their choices, respecting them, and then still filling the gap with mercy that it's done to us. But we can't get ourselves out of our little narrow window of time. That's the problem. All right, frame. Stuart.
Yeah, Tim, thank you first for your excellent presentation today. It was absolutely clear and fully comprehensive. You covered all the bases. And it is a major subject, one that we all at some times have to confront. This idea that we are on a world that's still a hotbed of division, even today. And we are still now, with Caligastia and Dalagastia being here, we are still part of the hotbed battlefield of ideologies of the Lucifer Manifesto of Liberty. And it's being played out today. And it reminds me of Stephen King, his book called The Stand. It's an apocalyptic end of the world, but the people on it don't end until everybody takes a stand on which side of the fence of the division are they on, whether they go to the good side or to the other side. And it's an interesting concept, but in many ways, we're playing this out now today. We still have those individuals that embrace the manifesto principles of liberty. And they do not, and they do so at the sacrifice of our obligations to our brothers and sisters, to the family of God. And that's a scary thing. So in many ways, and if you think of Jesus, he gave us a number of parables of the separation of the wheat and the chaff, that there is a process. And when they say why, and it's saying, you ended it by saying in our world today, we are still embroiled in this debate. And it is important not only in our mortal lives of the flesh, but will continue for those who are allowed to enter into the first mansion world to express ourselves regarding this very important distinction of the two adversarial positions and principles. So when you think about it today, now there are a lot of people who are so interesting. There are people, in my opinion, who I would say are fairly Luciferian, who believe that they are actually on the level of right. They believe in it that strong. So it's not a simple thing. It's not something we can clean up easily. But the ethical revelation redefines our language with a higher ideology that will feed into the cosmic consciousness of this world over the next few hundred years and absolutely start changing people's understandings in a higher cosmological, almost near moda kind of thinking that is much more God lit in our minds. So we are in the process. And I think there are people who would like to clean everything up on our world right away. But I don't think that's happening yet. We are still of a barbaric mentality that we inherit as the overall world. Things happen on our world that are inexplicable in the eyes of God. And we can't ignore those things, but what we can do is overcome it like Jesus did, giving good for evil, giving mercy where there is mercy that can and will be accepted. Mercy that is spurned is like pearls before the swine, but that's not our judgment. We can't make that judgment. We have to go out there and believe that everybody can be approached with a loving, merciful attitude towards who they are as children of God. So we're in the middle of the stand of taking position where we stand regarding these issues. And as us being blessed in this revelation, we already know the taste. We're no longer of this world. We're in it, but we're not of it anymore. We're of a higher kingdom, a higher status, a spiritual soul consciousness. And that changes us forever. But we see the darkness out there, and that's our job, is to be the lantern on top of a hill that could show out God's pure light and hopefully convince individuals who are living in the darkness to take a leap of faith.
Thank you, Stuart. Very, very well put. Grace, you have the last word. Well, second to last, I'll say something, but the last comment, make sure to unmute. Oh, you did it, but then you remuted. We still can't hear you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated your presentation. I'm new to Urantia. I'm only a couple months into this, and I bought the book 5 or 6 years ago, and I started reading it and couldn't make any head or tail out of it. But then I was introduced to Urantia back in August of last year, and I'm finding it quite interesting, perusing it. And the fact that our planet Earth is referred to as Urantia, that was kind of news to me. But anyway, I love the idea that you emphasize mercy, God's mercy on our planet. And also, but I'd like to add that there is this ocean of love and mercy that God distributes to all his creatures. And so we have to, and I am very much in tune with what Alvin and Stuart said with regard to where we are at this point in our evolutionary process on this planet. But I would posit, was Urantia created to be a planet of experimentation for souls to come here and try to find God, love, express love through their hearts? Because I'm looking at all of these writings and I'm saying this is the case. We all want mercy. We want to be given mercy, but what are we giving in exchange for this mercy? Are we willing to give absolute love? Now, it's very, very hard to love everyone. But for me, I say, we can love our family members or close friends. We can give them the warm, fuzzy love that comes bubbling out of our hearts, but we also have to learn how to give the impersonal love to others. And so that's how I'm feeling about the whole thing. So for me, this is an experiment on, are you mortals able to love and take responsibility for your actions? Because at the end of the day, we have the free will and everyone is responsible for their own actions. It's not like, well, you did it to me, that one did it to me, my mother, my father, and on and on and on ad infinitum. No, we are responsible for our actions, our thoughts, our words, and our actions. So the love that we are able to give out is what will return to us. And that, to me, will be the freedom that Urantia will eventually attain.
Well, Grace, thank you very much. If you'd have not told me you'd only been reading the book for a year, I never would have guessed from those remarks, because I think they're all 100% correct. And you touched on many things that are in the things I talked about and elsewhere in the book. So thank you very much. And that was a perfect wrap-up comment. I'd urge everybody to attend as much as they can the subsequent sessions. I'll let David, David, do you have any closing words, or we should just wait till next time? But again, thank you all. It was a great pleasure to present this, and I'm glad so many of you liked it. And if you didn't, call David. Just kidding.
Well, yeah. Thank you, Tim, up until the last sentence. I enjoyed every bit of it up until the last sentence. You're a wonderful person up until the last sentence. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. till 12 Central Daylight Time, Jackie and Mata will be presenting on something we've talked about, but now we're breaking it down into the individual parts, which tomorrow will be about how Urantia is a decimal planet. So before we made any mistakes, we were different. Check in tomorrow and you'll find out how. Thank you. Good night. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Night all.
Good night, everyone. Atma Namaste.
Thank
Ta-ta.
Yes. Grace, your question leads into tomorrow morning's discussion. Your question about how were we different and experimental is tomorrow morning's discussion. So if you can make it, thank you for the segue.
Okay, thank you so much. I will try my best to be there. Thank you. Thank you.